KXVS, the voice of Stockton, 92.1 FM.
This broadcast will start in 60 seconds. This broadcast will start in 45 seconds. This broadcast will start in 30 seconds. This broadcast will start in 15 seconds. This broadcast will start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Voice of Stockton. For more information on The Voice of Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, The Voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
And welcome back to Stockton Alive with your host, the one and only Nate Knott, who is back in the chair.
Back in the saddle, back in the driver's seat, in the cab, moving forward. Well, just by the skin of our teeth, we avoided missing a whole calendar month. The last time we were live on Stockton Alive, ! Was May 1st. It wasn't, however, voluntarily that we weren't here. We just had a few things stumble in our way. Primarily, I came down with an unusual, and I don't have any allergies I'm aware of. Maybe I've developed some, but I had an unbelievably unique sinus infection that caused about really a 5-week period, but for 4 weeks for certain, a situation where I had very little hearing. I had a pretty severe case of laryngitis, and basically for 3 weeks couldn't even speak. For 4 weeks, I couldn't speak much.
Ouch.
As recently as yesterday, I still had my voice choke up at a certain point. But I also had my ears plugged up, so I couldn't hear much. It's kind of hard to do a radio broadcast when you can't hear much and you can't speak. And then our man Dustin here was not 100% all there either.
No, we need our voices for this.
He was also without his voice for a while. And then I had a couple situations where I had to forego the show to keep working at my job, so making sure we met some critical deadlines at San Joaquin RTD. But we are back and we're live now. We are Stockton Alive, actually live, ! And we know that at times we rumble into sports a little bit. Today we will get into sports because there are legitimate Stockton and Northern California sporting issues to discuss.
Hit those phone lines. No.
However, I will start with my favorite subject, the inland port of Stockton. As I always like to say, you can count on about two hands how many cities in the world have a major, vibrant, ongoing, successfully operated inland ocean port, and we're one of them. I mention that because, and I don't unfortunately have the date with me, but it is on social media. But the Port of Stockton, once again, free of charge to the public, is going to start their tours, the little boat tours they do, of the Stockton Inland Channel. And they have a great little tour boat they do it on. Historically, I don't know if they do it this year, but they've had snacks and beverages also. And it's a 90-minute tour of the Port of Stockton. It boards from the public docks that are there behind the waterfront warehouse, behind the area around where Chativa's is in that area. And they do, my memory serves me correct, they do either 2 or 3 trips on a Saturday, and I think it's once a month. And you do need to make reservations, but it's totally free. It's a great service. I've done it before. It's a lot of fun. But you have to book it really early. So look up the Port of Stockton tours. Like I said, it's all over social media, but unfortunately for today's purposes, I don't have the exact starting date. It is this month, though. That maybe it's possible that it's this coming weekend, but I can't remember. Due to the fact that I was trying to catch up with many activities because of having been ill and also working a lot of crazy hours, One thing I didn't get to do this past Saturday was the stock market. Were you able to attend the stock market this year?
Yeah, it was. I think it was last Saturday, not this past Saturday.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. 2 Saturdays ago.
The 9th, I believe that was. But yeah, I did go. It was fun. I liked the MLK Plaza.
Yeah, MLK Plaza is a great place for them to be. One group of people, and we've had them on. We've had, of course, Ann Wilcox and Amy Seifert on as guests. Another person we have had on as guest is Martina Morio, the president of the Save Downtown Stockton Federation.
Yeah, I saw her out there with her booth.
That's right, and that was what I was going to lead up with, because it's a worthy cause. Just like our our Tower Up event, their Inspire thing is a very inspirational good thing. For any of you that don't remember the last time we talked about it, which would not be surprising since we haven't been on the air live in 6 weeks.
It's been about a year also.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Martina Morio, I think, was a guest in July of last year. Mm-hmm. She was our first guest, actually, on this show. And unfortunately, I haven't had too many guests, mainly because I haven't had a lot of time to be able to book people. And the people whom I've tried to get on this show aren't really available on Monday evenings. We tape this live on Monday evenings. We're live now, by the way. But, of course, if you were seeing this on videotape a week from now, you wouldn't be live. So because it's been so long since we've been on the air live, I should say that right now, tonight, we're talking being live on Monday night, June 18th. So if you see it on June 25th, then we're on tape. But anyway, it benefits Martina and Save Downtown Stockton that the stock market is at the Martin Luther King Plaza, because that's where the Save Downtown Stockton major project is to be located. So they're now sitting at the actual site in which they want to do this major project. The major project I'm talking about is that the Save Downtown Stockton Federation managed to salvage at the last minute the old copper water fountain tower that used to be at the water fountain that was at Hunter Square, that used to be between the old county courthouse and what is now the in-shaped city building. And it was one time kind of a reflecting pool also, in a grass courtyard. And that area is generally known as Hunter Square, which leads into a walking esplanade. But anyway, they salvaged that, and if my memory serves me correct, it's copper, but it's much bigger than people realize. This tower is something like, I want to say it's 50 feet tall or something, and it's several copper tubes, and it has a major width. But I can't remember all the details now, but it's a major deal. However, what they want to do at Martin Luther King Park is not a water fountain. And there used to be a water fountain there, by the way. There used to be a round water fountain and beautifully landscaped fresh flowers around that in the middle of Martin Luther King Park. Now there's this big round pit of dirt. Well, what they want to do is take this former water fountain set of tubes, and they want to install it as a dry feature. But this is the great part. It ultimately would become a sundial. And the area that's in a circle or semi, it's a sundial does not have a true circle, by the way. I want to say I forgot the exact word. It's kind of like an oval, but there's another word, ellipse or something. I forget the term now, the mathematical term. It's a slightly skiltered circle. Anyway, they would put the markings down there that would make it a sundial. And you could walk over to Martin Luther King Park. You could look down on this. You could say, oh, according to the shadow there, it's 2:30 in the afternoon or something like that. I always find that amazing. The only sundial I've ever seen personally up close for real is the one at Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. They also have that amazing clock. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Dustin. Inside one of the buildings, they have a clock with a big pendulum, and it swings back and forth.
I've heard about it, yeah.
By natural gravity progression and the spinning of the earth. And every minute, precisely every minute, it knocks over a little wooden peg. They've got every minute of the 24-hour clock in a huge circle lined up. Maybe it's every 5 minutes. It's probably every 5 minutes. I can't remember. Although my memory says every minute. And you could sit there, and it's amazing how you can make yourself be fascinated with something like that. You'll sit there and you'll watch that pendulum. This is not a small exhibit, mind you. This is a big pendulum, and it swings about 20 feet back and forth. And you'll stand there waiting for it to knock one of those little pebbles, they're about They're little wooden sticks that are about an inch tall. They're little round cylinder sticks. And obviously somebody goes in and sets those up every night at midnight or something. I don't, because they let you see the progression of how they're being knocked over. So we won't have that, but we will have a sundial, which is pretty amazing. Unfortunately, on the bad news is they're not going to have the interactive water fountain this year. I don't know if you saw the news on that.
Yeah, I did see that.
After 20-something years, the parts are worn out. They just literally have to shut it down and rebuild the whole thing.
Yeah, it was surprising they didn't do it earlier on in the year.
Yeah, it's too bad they didn't do some kind of major, ongoing kind of preventive maintenance. But probably about the time they should have done that was probably about the time we slid into bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be something like $440,000 to $500,000. It's well worth it, though.
Especially with the heat coming up this week.
We used to be one of the very few of those that existed anywhere in California. Now other cities have copied it. Not as big or as good as Stockton's. The first one I was aware of was in San Jose. Stockton was next. There's probably some in Southern California I'm not aware of. But I saw in the paper the other day that I think it's Ripon or somebody has a little version of it. So does Lathrop. And Lodi has Lodi Lake, of course. And I think they have something with some water sprinklers or something. I can't remember exactly what they have there. But, yeah, Weber Point Event Center will not have the active water fountain this year. So, and I'm hoping I make it through the show because I already feel my voice starting to close up. But I guarantee you we're going to stick this out even if I have to do a loud whisper into the microphone. But yes, my throat is clogging up and I'm losing my voice as we speak here. So I'm glad now the stock market. Did you find a particular booth or food or something or dessert you liked there?
The lemonade booth was good.
Ah,
it was
fresh squeezed lemonade.
Yes, fresh squeezed lemonade. That was pretty interesting.
I
And
love
I didn't get any
lemonade.
kettle corn. I was sad about that. I should have got that, but I didn't. But it was nice.
Have you ever done, there's this, not in every single stock market, but when they were at Caldwell Park on the Miracle Mile, they had it. Have you ever done the ice cream sandwich one?
No, I haven't.
And this one isn't an ice cream sandwich like what you would buy in the store where it comes with a little black kind of like patty cake things with ice cream between. They actually take two huge cookies. They're like chocolate chip type cookies, only they're filled with M&Ms. And then they put a big huge slab of ice cream between the two huge cookies of M&Ms. And that's the kind of ice cream sandwich they sell at the stock market. It's really delicious. The only thing is it's a real challenge to eat it without either losing half of it on the ground or getting half of it on yourself. Because as you try to bite down with the two big pieces of cookie, the ice cream keeps trying to just squeeze its way out. It's kind of a messy thing. You need to be near a water fountain or something so you can clean up afterwards. But it's really tasty. So, we mentioned the Port of Stockton tours. We mentioned the stock market. I should mention once again about the Port of Stockton. By the way, they average... if anyone doesn't know this, they put a huge ad in the Stockton Record. I think it's on the Sunday paper on the back page of the front section, pretty much every Sunday. And they show they show either 2 or 3 weeks of the ship's schedules. I don't think most people that are not. See, I live pretty close to the port, so I walk by there all the time. Like this morning when I walk to work, I don't drive to work. I usually ride the bus or walk. Today, of course, I walk to work, and of course, as usual, I came to the Miracle Mile. To the Voice of Stockton KXVS studios here on the Route 40 BRT Express Bus of RTD. And then I'll walk home from here. But getting back to what I was going to say. I go by the Port of Stockton all the time because I don't live too far from it. I live pretty close to Acacia and Yosemite Street, a few blocks from Dameron Hospital and Victory Park. And if I walk to work, I go right by the Port of Stockton. But what I was going to say was they average about 3 ocean-going ships a week arriving and or departing. That doesn't sound that impressive at first until you really think about an ocean-going ship. These are not small ships. I'm talking about ships 500 and 600 feet long, full of either chemicals or some of them bring steel in. They bring railroad rails in. Did you know, Mr. Dustin, that they have a rail welding facility at the Port of Stockton?
No, I did not know that. I know they have railroad tracks that get stuff
That's what I'm
off.
referring to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I've
they
seen that
in
before.
the rails, which start out as the old-fashioned traditional rails, which used to be 40-something feet long. People in my generation used to refer to railroad trains as clickety-clack because you'd hear the clickety-clack as the wheels went over the joints where the rails were connected. Well, rails aren't really connected anymore. They're welded together in lengths of 2 and 3 miles. I think the typical is 1.5 miles. it takes something like 6 or 7 of these rails welded together. Well, they do that at the Port of Stockton. They have a plant at the Port of Stockton where the rails come in, and then they start welding them into long ribbons of rail, and those are put onto long specialized freight cars. I think it's like 7 or 8 flatbed freight cars are permanently coupled together the length of whatever these rails are when they get done with them. And the reason they have these welded rails, by getting rid of the little gap in the clickety-clack, you cut down on the maintenance of wheels and track by about 30 or 40%. Now, you multiply that times the numbers of thousands of freight trains per day over the 138,000 miles of mainline track in the United States, and then you start to realize that little gap and those little clickety-clacks, by eliminating that, you've saved probably hundreds of millions of dollars of maintenance. And it's safer, too. There's only one bad thing about welded rail. In really hot weather, it kinks up a little bit sometimes because there's no gap in it. It has nowhere to expand to. Not quite sure how they designed the expansion. But if there's several consecutive days of 100-degree weather, the rails can get what's called sun kinks. If that happens, you have to slow all the trains down. That means running freight trains at like 30 miles an hour and Amtrak like at 40, 45 miles instead of the usual 79 and 70. But for the most part, welded rail is much better. It was invented somewhere in the late 40s. It came out right after World War II. I think the concept was actually invented during World War II, but they had to wait till the war was over. Okay, so anyway, we've talked about the Port of Stockton. We're getting a lot of good summer events in Stockton. The place that I happen to belong to, which is the Village West Yacht Club, which is a honest boat club that's across the water from Garlic Brothers, out on the far end of Benjamin Holt. It's the time of year they have every Tuesday night they have a special Taco Tuesday dinner, music, and dancing event, and there's a lot of that going on. Another annual event that's coming up, where several yacht clubs get together. And I mention this because we don't emphasize the Delta. People in Stockton take it for granted we have the Delta out here. If you live in Omaha, Nebraska, you don't have water stuff the way we do here. You have, a few reservoirs and lakes here or there. You don't have it the way we have it here. And it's too bad more people don't go out and take advantage of all this. But anyway, a big event coming up, I started to mention, is the Taste of the Delta, where several clubs get together and have kind of something like it's similar like a chamber mixer. But there's always a chamber mixer once or twice a year, too, that couples in with these marinas.
Yeah, there's one at the port, I think, every year, too. And
I was leading up to the fact that our marina, our much maligned downtown Stockton marina that costs quite a bit to build, has the tent-like coverage. Mm-hmm. It is famous among people who like to criticize it for not having its own fueling facility. And the reason they don't is because it was a nightmare of environmental regulations in that particular spot, being part of an inland ocean channel with ocean-going ships. There was a lot of issues why they couldn't put a fueling station in there. They tried to get a private place like one of the boat sales or one of the marinas that's right in there that repairs boats to do it for them, and they wouldn't do it. But anyway, getting back to this, the marina is getting new management on July 1st, only a couple weeks from now. SMG Management, the same people that manage the Bob Hope Theater and the Stockton Arena and the Oak Park Ice Arena, are going to be officially in charge of the marina. It's the first time in about a year that the city won't be managing it itself, and the city isn't really equipped to manage the marina. But the best thing about what's happening is the SMG people, their specialty is to host events and create events. And they claim when they really get up and running and they really know what they're doing with this particular marina, that they're going to be like weekly events at the Stockton Marina downtown, which for anyone that doesn't know quite where the marina is, it's on the furthest west end of Weber Avenue, on the other side of El Dorado and Center. It's west of the waterfront warehouse, and it's west of what we sometimes call the Twin Towers that are there on the waterfront. Those buildings that are about, I want to say they're 8 stories tall. And that's the new City Hall, of course, is one of those 2 towers.
Yeah.
The marina is a little bit west of that, just a little bit. And there's a boat launching ramp out there, too. And I think it's called Morelli Ramp, but I can't remember exactly. And there's 2 relatively successful restaurants, and they're restaurants, bars, and lounges, I guess I should say. There's Chativa's Salsa Bar and Restaurant, and then there's Nena's. Nena's is a long-time iconic Stockton Mexican restaurant, renowned for their special sauces and spices and things. They run the big restaurant that many, 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 many years ago started out as a Eureka Cafe. Nena's is the first one to be really successful and actually make money there. But the point is, you got all that stuff right there within 200 yards of the marina. And in addition to those restaurants with Chativa's salsa and Saturday night and weekend dancing and all this stuff, and sometimes comedy shows, and Nena's with their traditional Mexican food and their mariachi music on some nights and all the other things. Now you're actually going to have a lot of events. I mean, real events out there. They're going to start staging events. So, paddle boat races and all kinds of stuff. And they've already wired the place. This kind of shocks me that it wasn't already there, but they've put Wi-Fi in there. So if you go to these...
Isn't that a requirement in life, Wi-Fi?
Yeah, you think
it needs to be everywhere now?
But there's a kind of an open amphitheater section between the twin buildings and the waterfront warehouse building where Nena's is. And that area is going to be hosting the events. This is the same location where Stockton, until a year ago, had the annual Oktoberfest. So that's July 1st that SMG takes over. They're also going to market it. City of Stockton wasn't real good at marketing the marina. And it was hard to get a hold of them. Then it was kind of hard to reserve a boat slip. And then it was hard. The communication wasn't good about getting the pass you needed to get in the security gates and all that kind of stuff. All that's being taken care of. Contrary to popular belief, by the way, there are restrooms and showers out there. The issue had been that there was people hanging around in that area. Now, SMG says they're going to really beef up the security out there. So anyway, that's really, we talked Stockton Alive. This whole show is basically to try and, in an enthusiastic, informative way, let our viewers know there's a lot of great things in Stockton. It's a wonderful city. It's a great city. It's historic. It's going to be spectacular again, in my opinion. But this is one of those little steps that you don't think much about, but you start collectively putting these little steps together, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and you have a much more vibrant city. Now, I don't know if you saw the paper the other day where we got some entrepreneurs that moved to Stockton.
I've heard that rumor.
Where they're having crafts and things. And they've taken, and I haven't gone out and looked at the building, but they've taken a building at Aurora and Weber Avenue, which is on the east end of Weber Avenue downtown, pretty close to where the Ace train station is. These people were priced out of the South of Market area, which is where they wanted originally to do this. What they want to do is teach people crafts, as in woodworking and sheet metal working. They want to make things like, as I understand it, they want to teach people how to make things like cabinetry and small things that you can put together and use in your house, and things that are basically made of plastics, metals, and wood. In fact, they've got a 3D printer. They're going to do digital plastic, whatever you do with 3D printers, you can print out things and then cut them apart and actually make something. But amazingly enough, this is amazing. Sometimes good karma is just there when you're trying to do good things. The very building these people chose to go into already had leftover machinery tools, woodworking tools and milling tools from far gone, since eliminated vocational education on the county level. And they went and found this. They said, this is exactly some of the stuff we needed. We don't have to buy it. It's already here and it's in good shape. It was in storage. And the county of San Joaquin, to their credit, I think that's who gets credit for this, has agreed to donate the materials to them. But this is the really good part, Dustin.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, Nate.
Several public and private education organizations are going to actually put this in their curriculum and let students go there as official classes held by these private entrepreneurs, and they'll get some kind of credits for it. But this also means, and they're going to contract with these people, which means these people don't have to, as they actually start up and running, they're already going to have people there. They don't have to do a huge marketing outreach campaign just to get people to come there. And then the people who learn these are going to get two good things. They're going to learn a trade, and they're going to get some kind of education certificate or something. So that's just really exciting. But this is the kind of stuff that's happening in Stockton now. People, and by the way, when people come here, they love the old buildings and the facades. They say, wow, this is an amazing city. It's, the buildings may be empty, but they look great. We're going to get some people in here, and we're going to fix up these buildings. This is going to be a wonderful downtown. Well, that's exactly what's happening. We've done this before, but since we haven't been on the air for 6 weeks, maybe we could do it again. let's recount a handful of places opened up in just the last 14 to 18 months, and are open, and they're still in business, and they're doing very well. You got the Cast Iron Trading Company, trendy little restaurant near the corner of San Joaquin and Weber. Then next to it, on the corner of San Joaquin and Weber, you got the Channel Brewing Company, which literally brews beer, its own special craft beers right here in downtown Stockton.
Now selling them in cans also.
They actually do that over on American Street. I think it's where the warehouse is where they brew the beer. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
They're selling cans now also.
That's right. They also have now pizza that you can buy when you're there. You can actually eat there now. And if you haven't been there recently, they redecorated the place and refurnished it. Instead of the picnic tables and the like semi-folding chairs, they have beautiful high tables now, like kind of like this, with fancy chairs, high chairs and stuff. Of course, I hope they'll bring back the trivia competition again, and I can hopefully join the KXVS team and we can pull out a victory.
Yes, we need Nate.
In fact, having said that, I can't remember. I think I talked about that the last time I was on this show. I was in, for the first time ever, I was in the Stockton's Big Trivia Bee. It was myself, Christina Fugazi, and I think his name was Richard Walker. And we tied for first place and lost in sudden death overtime.
Wow. Well, when was that?
That was, well, it was like April, I think it was April 18th or something like that. And we were in the Stockton Arena doing this.
Oh, I didn't know about this.
And I believe it was recorded and is on live streaming of some kind. So I guess I could go back and watch it. But we tied for first out of 23 teams or something like that. Mm-hmm. And this was I forgot how many years they said now. I want to say either the 18th or the 22nd annual one or something like that. For years and years, it was in the Civic Auditorium. But it's a major iconic event. There's a major dinner served. What you do is you pay for a dinner and everything, and you go in. But first of all, you can bring guests with you, but primarily the people who are in the competition also eat a big fancy catered dinner there. So you got all these exciting things going on, and we haven't said a word about sports because sometimes the viewers probably think we overdo that. But we have a lot of noteworthy things to talk about in sports, and that is part of the culture and fabric of our city. The last time we were on the air, we were talking about the Stockton Kings NBA thing. Mm-hmm. So back in April. So anyway, this is what we got in sports. First of all, Delta College men's baseball won the state championship.
I was there.
Oh, you were there?
In the dugout.
You went to Fresno?
I went to Fresno.
Oh, that's great. That's right, because you do PA announcing for them here in Stockton.
I do it for the softball team, but I help out with the athletic department.
And the softball team was also
They went to state also, too. They finished 8th in state.
Yes. So the men's baseball team lost the first game of a doubleheader, and then came from behind to win the second game.
Yeah,
right?
So they won all their games basically all weekend, and then they were playing Sacramento City, which is a rival.
That's right. We beat our arch rival to the north, Sacramento City.
Yeah, Sac City.
The only thing sweeter might have been beating Fresno City College or maybe MJC.
No, Sierra. In Rockland, but
okay. Oh, that's the big rival for
Delta? Right now.
Okay.
But Sac City made it to the Final Four, like Delta. Other teams were the Orange Coast from Orange County area.
Orange Coast knocked them out like 2 years ago.
Yeah, they knocked them out a couple years in a row. Orange Coast, and the other school was man, I'm blanking right now. Mount San Antonio.
That's right.
Yeah. So
lovingly known in Southern California as Mount
Sac. Yeah, you know that in Walnut.
And they have played football games in Anaheim Stadium.
Yeah. So they're a big sports program. They But yeah, they lost the first game to Sac City in the final. There's 2 games that day. So if Delta won the first game, it would have been over. But Delta lost the first game, then they came back and won the second game. Basically, they were down. And they came back and won, and it was pretty amazing.
5-2
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Although I'm sure you in the dugout, you were pretty confident they'd pull it out. Anyway.
Yeah, but I was pacing back and forth.
However, 5-2 is just enough of a deficit to be very concerning.
Yeah.
So I was able. The year they were like number 1 in the nation for most of the year, and they were something at one point like 27-0. Mm-hmm. That year, I got to go to some of the playoff games here at Delta College.
Yeah, they host all the playoff games this year at Delta. It was pretty amazing.
And I'm hoping, I know that KXVS at various different times has, I think, actually done some sports and flirted with the idea. Hopefully.
We did do some sports. We do some sports here. We did the Lions All-Star game this Saturday night.
Good.
I was on the call of that from the...
excellent. You were doing play-by-play on that?
Yeah, from Wayne Schneider Stadium. You could see the first and second half on our Facebook channels, but... Yeah, I was there this weekend.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah. Hopefully, as we grow as a station and everything,
the South won.
You and I and some other people, we can do a little more live sports.
Yeah, the South won 24-2. So
I knew that they had won pretty big.
Yeah, but not a lot of scoring. That's surprising in the All-Star game, but it was really windy that night. So.
Oh, right. So.
And really cold.
Then, in addition to Delta College winning the baseball championship.
Yes.
The Stockton Ports won the first half of the California League.
Mm-hmm.
And they won their 5,000th franchise game.
And that's going back a ways, right, Nate? You've been here
for... Well, the Ports, the current Ports franchise as we know it, if I remember right, and I don't have it in front of me, this is memory, was founded in 1946 or 47. There had been minor league baseball before, but the current edition of the California League, which is the premier single-A league in all of the United States, out of, I think, 3 of them. The Ports were one of the charter members. Now, at one time, there was a Lodi team. For many years, there was both Lodi and Stockton.
The Dodgers affiliate, right?
Yes.
I think for a while. They played at Zupo
Field.
Field.
The Lodi Dodgers. Then at times, they were the, they had another name that I can't think. The Lodi Crushers, and I forgot what else. They also, for a couple bizarre years, were a farm team for a Japanese major league team, the Lotte Orions, or something like that. And so they were the Padres. I think I remember them being the Lodi Padres for a while. And I actually used to love to go to games at what is now called Tony Zupo Field.
Yes.
That's a classic, really old school minor league type stadium.
I was there a couple of years ago. I worked they had a summer college baseball team that played there for a year. Yeah.
And I know it's kind of a mecca for high school sports now.
Yeah, Tokay plays there.
Unless they've changed it since the last time I was there, the entire grandstand wraps around third to first, and it's got a roof over the entire thing.
Yep.
And then it's pretty much an entire, and then there's some bleachers that go out beyond that.
Yep.
And then there's a fence facing towards Cherokee Lane or whatever.
Exactly.
You're looking towards Cherokee Lane.
Yep.
I used to love to go to games there. I enjoy going to Billy Hebert Field.
Fernando Valenzuela pitched there.
What's that?
Fernando Valenzuela pitched there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I believe that was his first North American debut.
That's probably true. And I saw Fernando his first year when I used to live in downtown San Francisco. So when the Fernando Mania started, I was actually going to Giants games at Candlestick Park and seeing him in person. I don't know if you knew or remembered this, but starting with the 82 season, after he had won, I think, 3 starts in a row against the Giants, and the Fernando Mania was going crazy, and the Dodgers won the strike-shortened 1981 baseball season. They won the World Championship by beating the Yankees in 6 games in the World Series. And Fernando is this almost godlike figure in Southern California.
I believe Bob Welch was on that team, too.
Yes. And Bob Welch the Giants never defeated Bob Welch in San Francisco.
Yeah.
They beat him in L.A. a couple, and he became a star pitcher for the A's, of course.
Yeah, later in his career.
And he lived in downtown San Francisco. He was kind of a hero during the earthquake, actually.
Yeah.
But anyway, starting in 82 and continuing on for something like 3 full seasons, Fernando Valenzuela could not beat the Giants. He had something like 8 losses and maybe 3 or 4 no decisions against them. And it started with a pivotal game that was played on October 3rd, 1982, when the Giants had been eliminated by the Dodgers the day before on national television. And then Fernando was going for his 20th win the next day. And the Giants, they didn't beat him, but they knocked him out in the 7th inning. And the Giants eventually won that game on a very classic, very talked about historic home run by Joe Morgan. But I won't go into all that today. But I actually watched highlights of that with my family as part of Father's Day yesterday because the whole game is on YouTube.
Nate, but you're talking about the Stockton Ports. They won the first half of the year.
Right.
So they're the North champs for that. But do you know the other names besides the Stockton Ports that they have used as a franchise?
Well, I know that they've been the Stockton Mariners because they actually were out of business for 3 years. From about 1970, at the end of the 72 season, attendance had dwindled to next to nothing. A guy named Carl Thompson, who used to be a flooring company guy, owned them. And they were only averaging like 150 a game to Billy Hebert Field. So they actually folded up at the end of the 72 season.
Yeah, they were the Angels affiliate then.
Yes. And then Danny Thomas and the Seattle Mariners brought them back for one season. They called them the Mariners. I want to say it was about 1976 or 7. I think the Mariners were founded in 77. So maybe it was 5 years. I don't. Maybe it was 73 they folded up. I can't remember. But there definitely was no Major League Baseball here. I mean minor league baseball for several years. They came back as the Mariners, And then they renamed them the Ports again. And then, of course, they were the Mudville Nine for 4 seasons, maybe.
I think it was 2 seasons.
Okay, and that was a registered trademark.
Yeah.
And that was the son-in-law of the famous Tommy Lasorda, I believe, that was trying to either he was related to the O'Malleys or Lasorda or both.
Yeah, I think they were the Cincinnati Reds affiliate.
And they were Cincinnati Reds affiliates. And then the last 3 years or so they were in, but I think they kept calling them the Ports though.
Okay.
And then the last 3 or so years they were in Billy Hebert Field. They were a Texas Rangers affiliate. When they moved to the Stockton ballpark, which I like to refer to as Banner Island Ballpark.
Which everybody does, yeah.
Right. Then they became an A's affiliate. And, of course, at that time, the A's had the Sacramento franchise also. I'm thrilled, by the way, the Sacramento franchise is a Giants franchise. I don't mean any ill will towards the A's. I don't mean any disrespect in that regards. I'm just glad that we have a Giants franchise in Northern California. I'd be even more thrilled if it were Stockton, actually, but I'm happy for that. The A's, by the way, the Giants also have San Jose, of course.
Yes.
And then the A's have a local one, too, but I went blank as to what it is now.
The A's are the Ports, and then they go to...
Oh, yeah, I mean, they have the Ports, and then it seemed like they have one more in this area, in California, the West.
No, they don't, not
it's
anymore.
It's just Stockton.
Goes Ports, Midland, Texas. The Midland.
Oh, that's right.
Then it goes...
That's right, all the way to Texas.
Nashville Sounders and the Oakland A's as the affiliates. Yeah.
Now, at the time I was growing up and I mentioned in one of the previous shows, the Stockton Ports had this whole decade of glory in the 60s when they were the franchise for the Baltimore Orioles. And this is when all the great Orioles players came through that led to World Series championships in 1966 and 1970. And one of the more notable players whose name people might remember because he played with the A's also, Mike Epstein played with the Stockton Ports. Big left-handed hitting first baseman. He wasn't real successful with the A's, but he was with the team in 72. He did play and start at first base for most of the season in 1972 when they won the World Championship over Cincinnati. Anyway, what I was going to mention was we've completely not mentioned Modesto.
The Nuts.
Actually, Modesto was the A's before they moved to the Stockton Banner Island Ballpark.
Yes.
And the other point I was going to make about that, for years and years and years and years, the Modesto team was actually the farm affiliate of the Cincinnati Reds. But ironically, they had been, I should say, for the Reds. And ironically, they were a farm team for the Cardinals when I was a kid. But they kept the name the Reds.
So they were the affiliate for the Nuts from the A's were from 1975 to 2004. The Cardinals was 67 to 74. Kansas City Athletics was 1966. Colt 45, 62 to 64. Yankees, Milwaukee Braves, Pirates, St. Louis Browns. I don't see the Reds on there.
Milwaukee was also the Ports were also a farm team for Milwaukee for a couple of years.
Yeah, the Brewers, yeah.
And I'll tell you why I know that. When they built, now I went blank on the name, when they built the beautiful baseball stadium in Milwaukee, of course these things changed names all over the corporate stuff. But when they built the current dome stadium, retractable dome stadium.
Miller Stadium.
Yeah, right, Miller Field or whatever it is, yes.
Miller Ballpark, yeah.
When they built that, and they shut down the old county stadium in Milwaukee, some of those seats went to Billy. The seats are still there.
Yeah.
So you go to Billy Hebert Field, you'll see green, reserved, chairback seats. Those are from County Stadium, Milwaukee.
That's awesome.
The things you can learn watching Stockton Alive.
A bit outside.
Well, I've got it now, of course, with all that great local sports. I know it's national. Yeah. I know that Stockton Alive is mostly.
We have 5 minutes left in the show, too.
But we have to talk about the Golden State Warriors.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Peru's loss yesterday.
Well, okay. You're right. I need to talk about that first because, as everyone knows, I'm married to the Peruvian beauty who sometimes knows Peruvian party wife. And yes, her brother probably almost committed suicide yesterday. And my kids are actually big-time soccer fans. I mean, the point where they know the teams, the players, and everything.
I watched some of the World Cup this week.
And as we've mentioned a few times in here, and you and I are kindred spirits because we both broadcast sports, I was once the radio voice of Chico State Soccer.
I'm public address announcer for Delta
Soccer. Public address announcer for soccer at Edison High School. Yes. And so I have a pretty good, deep background in soccer myself. At Chico State, it was a big, big deal. Now, we were Division II. But we actually sometimes drew more fans for the soccer games than we did for Division II football. We would put 4,000 people in University Stadium in Chico for a soccer game, which is virtually unheard of.
Soccer's fun to watch live.
And we were a Division II power. I actually broadcast an NCAA Division II soccer playoff, semifinal playoff between Chico State and our bitter arch rivals, University of California, Davis Aggies. And Chico lost that. Now, I don't know if you remember, there's 2 mandatory overtimes in soccer.
Yeah.
It's not sudden death. Well, Chico went in a 2-2 tie with Davis, scored a goal in the first overtime. We were up 3-2. My color broadcast analyst, who was a former soccer player for Chico State, obviously knew something I did. Well, Nate, I don't feel real comfortable with this 3-2 lead. Davis actually came back to win 4-3. The guy who scored the winning goal for UC Davis to knock Chico State out of the NCAA Division II soccer playoffs was Rolf Benerschka, former big-time field goal kicker for the San Diego Chargers, who also hosted The Price is Right for a short time.
I didn't even know that, yeah.
But I saw him score the winning goal for UC Davis with like 3 minutes to go in the second overtime. That was a heartbreaking loss. I broadcast live for 3 3/4 hours, and I couldn't speak for about a week after that game ended.
Screaming, Nate?
It wasn't so much screaming. It's just that if you've ever tried to do play-by-play of soccer, Americans think it's a slow sport. Well, that's the perception.
Yeah.
Try to broadcast this. The ball's ping-ponging like a billiards game or something off all these players. You can actually only announce about every third person that has the ball. And then you're trying to describe the passes and where they're going to and the shots. But anyway, Peru, getting back to Peru. So my family's Peruvian. And then I've got honest to goodness soccer fans in my family. And I am too, but I don't know it all the way they do. I can tell you, though, I've watched a lot of soccer in my life. I've never seen a single game like yesterday's or Saturday's where a team had so many shots point blank on goal and did not score. I still can't believe Peru did not score in that game. Good news is they still get to play again. And by the way, Mexico.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Mexico that was awesome.
The defending champion German team.
1-0.
Yes.
And no CONCACAF team has ever. They've been 0-6 against the other teams who are not in the CONCACAF.
That was a historic, unique, one-of-a-kind thing. I can't imagine how crazy people must have gone over that.
They're still going crazy.
Because I wasn't near a party where it happened to be going on.
How about Iceland, though?
I know Iceland. Who was it? Brazil or something? They beat.
Who was it against?
They beat some major power, Argentina or somebody.
Yeah, tied Argentina 1-1.
I mean, goodness gracious!
Basically,
they're going to start killing people in Argentina.
All of Iceland was in Russia.
And here's the amazing thing: that how this all ties to me. By the way, I was just, as you know, I was just in Europe.
Yeah,
and I was in Germany, and my family and I, our flight home on WOW Airlines. So just can't get over that. Which is a reputable airline with brand new planes and unbelievably gorgeous stewardesses. But anyway, WOW Airlines, we actually flew into and landed at Reykjavik, Iceland, to transfer from one plane to another. So all these teams that you're talking about, I somehow have some connection to in the last couple months.
So Nate, we have 2 minutes left. Do you want to talk about the Golden State Warriors real quick?
The Warriors. First of all, my name. We'll talk about this another time. But my name that I use on the air comes from the then San Francisco Warriors. I'm thrilled they're moving back to San Francisco. Although I have real strong feelings for Oakland about this.
Don't tell me it's Nate Archibald.
So yes, that's true. Nate the Great Archibald. But I saw him play in person, by the way, for the Kansas City Kings, by the way, who are now your Sacramento Kings.
Okay, you were saying about your name though.
Yes, but I was from Nate Thurman.
Oh, okay, Nate Thurman, the other Nate.
The most forgotten, greatest center of all time. Here's the thing Nate Thurman did that people just, and today's generation wouldn't get this, but we used to have several great 7-foot centers. Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was once known as Lou Alcindor, and against Nate Thurman. Now, Jabbar is, I don't know if Jordan beat him or not. I think Jabbar's still the all-time scorer in basketball history, and he averaged like 28 points a game for his entire 20-something-year career. Yeah. You want to know what his lifetime scoring average was against Nate Thurman?
What?
17 points.
That's pretty good.
That's his lifetime average against Thurman, even with the sky hook and everything. Anyway, we're running out of time. I just want to mention the Warriors, with winning 3 out of 4 now, have definitely proven they're a huge dynasty. This year, if you take, the first year they won last year, with their combined regular season and record with 16-1 in the playoffs, which is an all-time record, and the Bulls never did that. The Warriors were 83-16 last year. This year they had tons of injuries. Their regular season record was 58-24, which is a little bit more pedestrian. But with the sweep they had of Cleveland after the hard-fought win over Houston, and with the injuries they overcame while doing all this, like Iguodala, I think they've absolutely proven beyond a shadow of a doubt this is one of the greatest teams ever in the NBA and one of the greatest Major League teams ever. When you look at also 3 years ago, they're 73-9, and remember they had 28 consecutive wins, only second to the Lakers with 31 with Wilt Chamberlain, and it was 2 years ago when they had the 73-9 record. They started the season 24-0. No team's ever done that.
No team has. And Nate, you know what's coming up though? It's the NBA draft on Thursday, and the Sacramento Kings have the number 2 overall pick in that draft.
Right.
And why do you think that relates to Stockton? Because the Stockton Kings are now here in Stockton.
And we may get that player here a little bit here and there.
Maybe probably not, but maybe.
I mean, if they have to season them up.
Hopefully we'll get a preseason game here in Stockton.
Right. We're going to get rehab people here, though, like California. Now, last thing to mention, the last time I was going to go on the air was May 7th, and I couldn't because of work at RTD. But that day I took a special Amtrak trip on the Morning Express, the new morning schedule, Sacramento, and I got a special VIP tour of Golden One Center in Sacramento.
Well, you have to tell us maybe next
show. We'll talk a little bit more about the Warriors. We'll talk about the Golden One Center being so spectacular. And yes, I love the Kings too. And they had a great player named Oscar Robertson back when the Kings were the Cincinnati Royals.
Yeah.
Who started as the Rochester Royals.
Well, Nate, it's great to have you back on the air.
We got through it, even though my voice was crackling there at the 15-minute mark.
Well, Nate. Well, this is Nate Knott, and that's Nate Knott. I mean, and it's Stockton Alive, and you can listen to.
And you're Dustin, I think.
Yeah, thevoiceofstockton.org if you want to learn more about the Voice of Stockton. Good night from the KXVS studios on the Miracle Mile.